In the controlled chaos of a movie set, every beam of light is placed with precision. Cinematographers bend and sculpt shadows like paint on canvas. Nothing is accidental. Every darkness, every glow, every flicker measured, tested, approved. That's why when something unplanned appears on film, it's not just strange, it's terrifying. In over a dozen films spanning decades and continents, trained crews have discovered something after the cameras stopped rolling: shadows where no actor stood, shapes imprinted on the negative, angles of light that made no physical sense. And perhaps most disturbing, many of these shadows couldn't be removed, not with reshoots, not with post-production. They were embedded, burned into the celluloid like a scar. Some called it lens flare, others optical anomalies. But behind the scenes, whispers grew louder. On more than one set, crew members reported a cold feeling moments before the footage was captured. Some said they heard faint voices near the playback monitor. Others claimed that no shadow was visible in person. It only appeared after developing the film. Directors dismissed it. Studios silenced it. But if you look closely, the shadows remain. Today, we're diving into 15 films that captured something no one remembers: lighting, casting, or blocking. Shadows that seem to move on their own. Silhouettes that no one recalls standing there, and yet they're right there, on screen, in frame, and forever part of cinematic history. So ask yourself, what burned that shadow into the film when nothing was standing there? Hasson, The Exorcist, 1973. Often named the most terrifying film ever made, The Exorcist is also the most mythologized. Stories of cursed sets, mysterious injuries, and on-set deaths have followed it for decades. But one visual anomaly has remained buried except to those who've stared too long. During a quiet transitional scene, the camera moves slowly down the McNeil household hallway. There are no actors, no sound, just a slow glide into darkness. And for exactly 24 frames, a figure's shadow passes across the floor, moving against the direction of the camera toward the room Regan is in. The lighting was practical. The set was closed. No crew members were scheduled. William Friedkin, in a rare interview, once called it an untraceable flicker that shouldn't be there. Years later, in a documentary commentary, the editor William C. Carr said, "We tried to cut that section." Friedkin said, "No, keep it. It's the best shot in the film." When asked what it was, Carr reportedly replied, "I don't think it was ours." To this day, the shot remains. Cleaned, remastered, preserved across decades of formats. If that shadow wasn't part of the production, whose was it? #2, Rosemary's Baby, 1968. Roman Polanski's psychological horror is built on paranoia: what you see, what you think you see, and what no one else does. But during a brief, easily missed scene, something appears that no one, even on set, seems to recall filming. Rosemary walks through her apartment building's hallway. The light overhead flickers slightly. As she nears a stairwell, her shadow elongates behind her. But just as she descends, another shadow rises up the wall, not hers, not parallel, but facing her direction, as if climbing toward her. No character is supposed to be present in that space. No prop, no mirror. The angle of the light source rules out doubling. And yet, in multiple frame-by-frame analyses, the shadow's head tilts. Polanski has never commented. The DP, William A. Fraker, denied noticing anything strange. However, a fan letter reportedly sent to Mia Farrow in the 1970 seconds asked, "Who was standing at the bottom of the stairs in that scene? Why won't anyone talk about it?" The letter was never answered. If the devil was in the details, maybe this was his footprint. #3, Eyes Wide Shut, 1999. Stanley Kubrick's final film is saturated with layers of meaning, secrecy, and dream logic. Every hallway, every mask, every pause feels measured. But in one opulent tracking shot through the mansion's ritual chamber, there's a visual inconsistency that lingers. Tom Cruise's character walks through a corridor lit entirely by chandeliers above. The camera glides beside him, capturing his reflection in ornate wall mirror. Except, at one point, there's a shadow walking behind him, but no one is there. The angle doesn't allow for crew. The lighting doesn't support a second figure. And it's not his shadow. The shape is bulkier, slower, and doesn't mimic his stride. Kubrick was famous for obsessive reshoots, yet this shot appears in both theatrical and extended versions. A production assistant once claimed, anonymously, that the director noticed the shadow but didn't ask for a reshoot. He just stared at the monitor for a long time and said, "Leave it." Some interpret it as a metaphor. Others say it was a mistake Kubrick allowed as a final message. But if it was deliberate, it breaks all his rules. If accidental, it escaped the most meticulous eye in cinema history. Was it Kubrick's final secret, or someone else's presence entirely? #4. Hereditary, 2018. Ari Aster's Hereditary is filled with hidden horrors, faces in the dark, shapes in corners, symbols burned into walls. But one of the most chilling shadows isn't hidden, it's in plain view. And still, it doesn't make sense. During a wide shot of the Graham household's living room, a character walks toward the kitchen. Lights are dim, practical. As the character exits frame, a shadow remains standing near the corner. It doesn't move, it doesn't flicker, it doesn't line up with any object or actor. Lighting maps from the film's production, later released online, confirm that the shadow's angle is impossible. No gels, no flags, nothing to cast it. A fan enhanced the scene and posted stills revealing faint lines that resemble a figure holding its hands together as if praying. Ari Aster, known for embedding background terror, responded in a Reddit AMA, "That one, not ours." That's all he said. No crew member has taken credit. It doesn't appear in the script notes. And when the film was remastered for 4 kelvins, the shadow remained untouched, intact. If the family was cursed, maybe the set was too. #5. Solaris, 1972. Tarkovsky's Solaris is a slow descent into memory, guilt, and the limits of human understanding. Every frame is deliberate, every silence is loaded. So when something appears that wasn't planned, it's not just a mistake, it's a disruption of the director's vision. During a slow pan inside the space station, a character walks past a reflective metal surface. He pauses. The reflection should match, but it doesn't. In the surface, his double lingers half a step too long. Then, from behind, a third shadow briefly crosses the frame. It's not mirrored. It doesn't belong. The camera continues. No cut. No acknowledgement. Tarkovsky was a perfectionist. He reshot entire scenes over lighting discrepancies. Yet this moment was left in quietly, deliberately, or maybe reluctantly. When asked, he said only, "Space records things we forget." Some believe the anomaly was meant to evoke Solaris's psychic projections. Others think it's proof that something else crept into the film, something not even the crew saw. The shadow curves unnaturally at the edges. Some say it resembles a child. Others, a figure cloak. Whatever it is, it appears in every release, unrestored, uncorrected. What kind of ghost survives space and film stock? 6. Ringu, 1978. Before The Ring became a global phenomenon, Hideo Nakata's Ringu terrified Japanese audiences with its quiet dread and analog horror. But beyond the cursed tape and Sadako's crawl, there's a moment that some viewers caught and never forgot. Midway through the film, the protagonist, Reiko Asakawa, visits a cabin where the cursed video may have been made. In one wide shot, she crosses the room alone. Her shadow stretches behind her, flickering as expected. But then, high on the wooden wall, another shadow appears, smaller, slower, with arms slightly bent as if holding something. It's only visible for 2 seconds, and most viewers miss it. But freeze frames reveal a detail too specific to ignore. The shadow seems to wear a long skirt, distinct from Reiko's pants. Nakata never commented. The cinematographer, Junichiro Hayashi, said in an old interview, "There were always strange reflections on that location. We chalked them up to warped wood, but not always. No cast or crew were scheduled to be behind the camera at that angle. The shadow's shape does not match any camera rig or boom mic. And most disturbingly, in one restored frame, the figure seems to be looking at the lens. If Sadako was already inside the tape, then who was still standing in the room? 7. Alien Olkup, 1992. David Fincher disowned Alien Cubed after studio interference gutted his vision. The film is bleak, chaotic, and stitched together from conflicting edits. But among the debris is a single moment that none of the multiple versions explain. In the assembly cut, a static shot shows the prison corridor at night. Ripley walks past a steel gate, her shadow long and distorted behind her. But for one beat, as the camera holds its frame, a third shadow enters from the left, humanoid, tall, but slightly hunched. It stops just before entering the light, then fades. Fans assumed it was the xenomorph. But the creature's design and height don't match the silhouette. Plus, no scene calls for its presence in that moment. An anonymous crew member on a fan forum once wrote, "We saw that during dailies and joked it was the ghost of the director's cut. but others weren't laughing. According to internal memos leaked years later, Fincher requested the scene be removed. Fox declined. The reason? No continuity conflict detected. Yet in the original script, that corridor was supposed to be empty. So who or what stepped into the frame just long enough to be forgotten? Height. Picnic at Hanging Rock, 1975. Peter Weir's picnic at Hanging Rock is soaked in sunlight, but every moment hums with something unnatural. The story of schoolgirls vanishing during a Valentine's Day outing is built on unanswered questions. But the real mystery might not be in the narrative, it might be in the negative itself. In the scene where the girls ascend the rock formation, the camera pulls back to reveal the towering stone monoliths. As the girls walk into a clearing, their shadows fall across the rocks, except for one girl. Her feet touch the ground. The light hits her clearly, but her body casts no shadow. It isn't a VFX shot. There was no green screen, no compositing. Archival footage confirms that all the girls were filmed simultaneously in natural light. The cinematographer, Russell Boyd, once hinted in an interview, "That shot came back with something missing, and we didn't know how to put it back in." The film's ethereal tone makes the moment feel intentional, but Weir has never acknowledged it. Fan theories range from supernatural possession to optical illusion, but the 4 Kelvin's restoration in 2018 preserved the detail, and the missing shadow remains absent. Can absence itself leave a mark on film? #9 Don't Look Now, 1973. Nicholas Roeg's Don't Look Now is a masterclass in dread, where every frame feels haunted. The film is famous for its fragmented editing and symbolic imagery, but one sequence contains a moment that even Roeg reportedly refused to comment on. Set in the labyrinthine alleys of Venice, a key scene shows Donald Sutherland's character chasing a red-coated figure through crumbling passageways. As he rounds a corner, the camera catches his silhouette stretching out across a brick wall, but then another shadow darts across the wall behind him. It's not his. It moves too quickly, at a completely different angle, and seems to ripple. Production stills confirm only one light source was used in the alley, a practical street lamp on set. No extras, no crew in that corridor. The editor later noted that the footage came back different from the lab, with unusual light bleeding on a few frames. But the lab technicians found no chemical errors, no overexposure, nothing that could explain the moving shadow. One chilling detail, the shadow has a hand raised, palm outward, as if reaching. It never touches the actor. It never appears again. Did the film capture grief, or did grief cast its own shadow? Hasson 0. The Blair Witch Project, 1999. Shot with handheld cameras and built on improvisation, The Blair Witch Project is remembered for its raw terror. But even raw footage has rules: light, angle, presence. One moment breaks them all. In one unused take, later released as part of a behind-the-scenes reel, the camera jerks to the ground during a forest sequence. The frame catches only trees and dark soil, but for exactly 7 frames, a tall shadow glides over the leaves, smooth, soundless, with no accompanying footsteps. Fans initially thought it was a crew member, but the director confirmed, "We had 3 actors and 1 handheld camera. No one else was on set during that shoot. The sun was overhead, no artificial lighting was used, and yet the shadow is long, angled, and appears to carry something on its back." Digital analysis of the reel revealed no tampering, no layering, and no source. What's more disturbing? The team didn't notice it until the raw tapes were archived a year later. By then, the film had already become legend. Was the forest watching them back? Through the lens? Hassonon, The Entity, 1982. Loosely based on a real-life case, The Entity tells the story of a woman tormented by an unseen force. Its use of practical effects, wind bursts, moving furniture, sound distortions creates an oppressive sense of terror. But one moment goes far beyond effects. In the second act, the protagonist walks through her living room at night. The camera holds a wide shot. Behind her, on the far wall, a shadow darts from left to right too fast, too precise, and too human. The light in the room is static, a single table lamp near frame right. The shadow moves across the wall from the opposite direction. It makes no sense. Cinematographer Stephen H. Burham later claimed the production was rushed and some lighting setups weren't perfect. But crew interviews decades later say otherwise. One grip insisted, "That wall was dead. We had nothing over there. No one walked behind her." What deepens the mystery is that the shadow appears again, subtly, in 2 other scenes always near walls, never explained. In fan forums, some suggest the entity itself left an imprint not just on the character, but on the film itself. If a spirit can't be filmed, why did its shadow move like it knew it was being watched? Hasson 2, The Keep, 1983. Michael Mann's The Keep is a film drenched in atmosphere and plagued by production troubles. Its dreamlike tone and supernatural subject matter blur the lines between reality and nightmare, but one scene goes beyond intentional ambiguity. Near the climax, a Nazi officer enters a fog-drenched chamber filled with eerie light. As he walks forward, his body casts a clear shadow to the left. But then another shadow appears, just behind him, mimicking his pace, and then passing him. The lighting setup, verified in archived production notes, had only one source: a single arc lamp overhead. There was nowhere for a second shadow to form. Some claimed it was an error from early optical effects. Others argued it was Mann's stylistic choice, until the director himself dismissed the moment as a glitch we couldn't fix in time. Strangely, the shadow doesn't just mimic movement. At one point, it seems to tilt its head, independent of the actor, and when the officer stops, the shadow lingers for 2 frames, then disappears. Visual effects artists who reviewed the sequence decades later confirmed, the shot is practical, no overlays, no doubles, no post-compositing. So why is there a second figure, and why does it act on its own? Is it possible for shadow to precede form? Hasson 3, The Innocents, 1961. One of the most haunting Gothic horror films ever made, The Innocents builds its terror through silence, suggestion, and some say accidental ghosts. During a nighttime scene in the nursery, the governess walks past a large mirror. The only light is from a single candle. The camera lingers as she moves out of frame. But something else doesn't move. A figure reflected in the mirror, dark, blurred, motionless. It's not her. The outline is male, heavy-set, and facing her direction. The shot was meant to be static. No other actor was on set. In commentary tracks, the director Jack Clayton insisted the reflection was a crew member who wasn't supposed to be there. Yet multiple retakes of the same scene shot later never captured the figure again. What's more, the shadowy reflection blinks. Some theorists argue it's a smudge, a lighting error, or a fluke of early film grain, but stills from the original 35mm print confirm it has definition, eyebrows, a chin, closed lips, and the strangest thing, one hand seems pressed against the mirror surface. The production designer later admitted that nothing was on that side of the set, just blackout drapes. So what did the mirror see that no one else could? Was the mirror reflecting light or memory? Hasson 4, Possession, 1981. Andrzej Żuławski's Possession is infamous for its manic energy, its disturbing performances, and its descent into madness. But beyond the screaming and contortions, there's something else captured on celluloid, something quieter, colder. The scene takes place in a subway tunnel. Isabelle Adjani's character spirals into a seizure, smashing groceries and screaming into nothing. All eyes are on her, but behind her, only visible in frame for a second, is a shadow that doesn't belong. The light source in the tunnel is fixed. Overhead fluorescence, harsh and direct. No crew member stood in the background. The frame was locked, but when enhanced, the shadow appears to flicker just once on the wall opposite her. It looks like a man watching. He doesn't move, he simply vanishes. Żuławski dismissed it as accidental poetry. The DP refused to comment at all, but according to a now deleted interview, a production assistant claimed no one was standing there. In fact, the assistant said, that side of the tunnel was closed off entirely. There was no way in. Fans have theorized, was it a metaphorical projection, a double exposure, a technical flaw? Yet multiple versions of the film on VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray contain the same shadow. It was never corrected, never explained. If it wasn't supposed to be there, why does it linger in every version? Hasson 5, The Shuttered Room, 1967. This British horror thriller is mostly forgotten today, buried under the weight of better-known Lovecraft adaptations. But for those who've seen it, one shot never fades. The film follows a couple who inherit a remote mill house in New England, only to discover a family curse locked inside. Filmed entirely on location, the production used natural light and minimal setup to amplify a sense of realism. That's what makes the anomaly so jarring. In a long tracking shot moving down a hallway, the female lead turns a corner alone. Yet, for 3 full seconds, another shadow glides against the wall opposite her. It doesn't match her silhouette. It's taller, thinner, and it's moving in the wrong direction. When questioned decades later, the cinematographer claimed it was a trick of the light, but set designers have gone on record. That corner had no alternate lighting rig, no bounce boards, no reflective surface. More disturbingly, several crew members reportedly felt uneasy filming that sequence, as if someone else was in the room. One gaffer later admitted that the playback monitor was flickering during that take, a glitch that stopped as soon as they moved on. Was it a shadow from another actor, accidentally in frame? Or something the film captured that no one saw in real time? What kind of presence casts a shadow, yet has no body? Bonus: Peeping Tom, 1960. Long before slasher films turned killers into icons, Michael Powell's Peeping Tom told the story of a cameraman who murders women while filming their final moments. The film was reviled on release, nearly destroying Powell's career. But buried within its grainy reels is something no critic ever mentioned, something even restoration teams weren't sure how to process. In a quiet scene, the killer develops film in his dark room. Red light spills across his face as he hangs negatives to dry. The camera lingers behind a sheet of plastic, partially obscuring the frame. For just over a second, as the film strip sways, a figure appears in the reflection behind him. It's not a crew member, it's not the actor, it's not even part of the room. The figure is still, wearing what looks like a trench coat, and most disturbingly, there is no camera visible in the reflection, even though the shot is clearly taken through a mirror or transparent barrier. In the 2001 Criterion restoration, the moment remains, color-corrected, enhanced, still unexplained. Archivists have speculated it's a layering flaw. Others believe it was intentional, a commentary on voyeurism, but longtime Powell collaborator Thelma Schoonmaker once whispered to an interviewer that shot was never in any storyboard. Michael didn't shoot it, so who did? If no one directed the shadow, who framed it? Shadows are supposed to obey the laws of physics. They need light, they need form, they need someone to cast them. But across decades of film, in controlled environments, on sets with full crews and million-dollar lenses, shadows have appeared that no one remembers creating. Were they camera glitches, forgotten extras, misplaced lights? Or did cinema, just once, record something it shouldn't have? Every frame on this list wasn't meant to be terrifying. These weren't jump scares, they weren't monsters, they were details mistakes, too precise, too stubborn, too embedded to ignore. And maybe that's what makes them more unsettling than any ghost story. Because they're real. They're there. They were burned into the negative. So now we turn to you. Which of these shadows haunted you the most? Do you believe they were oversights or glimpses into something no one on set could see? Let us know in the comment. And if you want to keep chasing the parts of cinema that weren't supposed to be there, subscribe to Darkroom Cinema, where the lights may be off, but the shadows are always rolling.